Hi, everybody. My name's Scott Alexander. I'm from the Mediators Institute of Ireland, and this is the MII TED Talk Club. I hope you enjoyed that video there from Betsy Kauffman. Is it the first time that you've joined us? We've watched the video, and if you're watching us on catch-up, we've watched the video, which is Betsy Kauffman, for ways to have better conversations. We're now going to discuss its relevance to dispute resolution in general and mediation in particular with the aid of our panel. And once they've made their comments, we'll bring in the rest of you. We're not a massive group. This is a summer session here, so if you do want to join us once we've had a quick conversation, you come in, but you've got to come in saying, call me Captain Obvious But, okay? So our panelists today are Anna Doyle, is the International Network Coordinator with the MII, 17 years a mediator, and an international public servant for 5 decades, working mainly in the areas of justice, the safety of air navigation and business ethics. She now specialises in international workplace mediation from her practice in Waterloo, Belgium, serving the UN Global Mediation Panel and other international organisations. We also have Avril. Avril Sheridan is a former litigation solicitor, 22 years experience, who has seen the light and is now a full-time mediator with particular expertise in the area of separating couples with a focus on client-centric solutions. Avril is proud to offer her expertise in navigating complex family dynamics. Her background equips her to guide you through the intricacies of conflict resolution, ensuring a swift and effective path forward. So we always start off with a general question. So I'm going to go to Avril because you're on my main screen at the minute, Avril. What are the main points you took from this short TED Talk?
I took it at 2 levels. One level, I was kind of thinking, what skills or what I could use in a mediation. And then at another level, I kind of thought, oh, well, what could I not use out of the video in a mediation? And I kind of found the language was a little bit too direct for a lot of mediation clients. They come in, they're stressed out, they're anxious. And I think if I was to use such direct language, they would find it difficult to swallow. So I wouldn't use as direct language but it does have a place at times in the mediation, direct language. So I thought from that point of view, it's interesting, and to be conscious that sometimes you have to use direct language. I'm not talking about offering direct solutions, but you have to be more focused about where we're getting to the end to get the clients to focus looking forward. So that's one of the things I took out of it. I don't know whether Anna or you have anything on it, Scott or Anna.
What about we bring in Anna? Anna, what was your main takeaway, or one of them anyway? You're on mute at the minute.
You're on mute.
Schoolboy error.
Okay, have you got me now? Good. Thanks. Yeah, hi everyone. Yeah, this took me back to my workplace mediation days, and also working in teams as part of big projects, and it just all of that kind of culture that goes with the project and the interactions on projects, that all sort of came back to me pretty suddenly, I can tell you. But one of the things when I watched it, I said to myself, like, who is Betsy's target audience really? Who is she really speaking to? And I had a look at her website, and on her strapline it says Betsy Kauffman helps leaders to create innovative, aligned, disruptive, agile organizations. And that was interesting because she's obviously used to working with big organizations and with leadership teams. And I think this is sometimes the organization's way of getting in a consultant, letting them give training sessions and interact with the staff. And almost by virtue of the fact that she's then in the organization, almost giving permission to people then to be able to speak up, and perhaps to be able to say things in a way that they wouldn't normally say. She talks about, not being afraid to have conversations out in the open, call me Captain Obvious. I mean, that was really, that was a bit of a step too far for me, but the Captain Obvious. But I can just imagine how that would go down in a multicultural organization, because that was the thing that came across as well. It very much North American culture based. And we just have to listen to the kind of debates on television, and even the way news is presented and so on. Sometimes all of that can really grate with you culturally if it's not really something that you're used to. So I think Betsy probably does a great job and makes a great living, bringing this kind of awareness and kind of semi-permission to people in organizations. But probably, I won't say a million miles away from mediation, in that I think enlightened organizations will make space not only for the likes of Betsy and her training, but they will also make space for mediation, and maybe for having quieter conversations in a more confidential, safe way, where people don't have to, get up and do a song and dance in front of an audience. So I like to think that there's room for both. But I'm also a bit biased in thinking that perhaps the mediation way can yield more long-term results, and probably also maintain good relations among people in the process.
Yeah,
so that was my first thinking.
Avril, sorry, I'm cutting across you there, and bring in Avril. One of the things she said was the confidence. So she came up with this I don't know what you would call little anagram or something, but she came up with confidence being the first part always. And certainly when it comes to mediation, giving someone confidence. I don't know if you read Jerry O'Sullivan's latest top tips thing, but it was about trying to get people who were afraid to come into mediation and give them permission, give them authority, give them control. And there's an element there, I think, about from Betsy Kauffman's discussion, if you like, about starting with confidence. Something there. There's a lesson there for mediators, isn't there?
Yeah, if I could just come back on that, because I was reminded. I'm glad you mentioned Jerry O'Sullivan, because I was thinking of what Jerry did at our MII annual conference last year. And it was a fabulous thing that she did, because she did a live mediation with two actors, but it was a situation. She explained the situation to us, and then she went through the mediation with the two live actors there. And she's brilliant, but she also is very brave, and she's brave enough to be able to make a mistake, or maybe even deliberately make a mistake, and then actually say, well, of course, you wouldn't say that in mediation, So to make a mistake and then to be able to correct herself. So I think this is where opportunities like this for us as mediators to come together and maybe to share our experience in what's maybe what's good, what's a good thing to do, maybe what's something that should be avoided, but also to be able to make mistakes and trust our colleagues and trust our fellow mediators to be able to come in and say, look, maybe call me Captain Obvious, but I don't agree with you on that, and maybe it would be better if you did something else. You know what I mean? So that's that kind of collegiality that I think is really that's why I like these TED Talks, because
I'll maybe go bring in Avril. Before I do, I'll just point out that the brief that I gave Jerry was that she was to make mistakes.
For that, yeah, okay.
Oh yeah.
The audience was to find them. It wasn't. You want to come along because I know you're going to make mistakes because you're rotten, Jerry. It was
No.
Make the mistakes. Make the mistakes and see if
but
people
she made them beautifully. She made them beautifully.
Make them beautiful. But yeah, Avril, maybe bringing you in, this issue about confidence and giving the parties confidence to speak out, because we've got to bring them into a situation where they've got to confront someone they disagree with. It's a difficult situation for them, and we've got to empower them. So there was a lesson there from Betsy, I thought. Avril.
I thought, well, it was just the confidence, where she was talking about kind of where you actually bring in kind of delivery, where you're looking at kind of the solutions. I think you need to bring that in with the confidence, because you've kind of got to say, you've got to bring them to, where do we want to get to? What's our end game here? Where are we going on this? Because I think you have to focus people's energies and their thought process to get them to have confidence. Other than that, they're kind of wandering, they're kind of like, you know, falling around in the wind, I think. So I think, you know, what she does say there is, you know, delivering it, you know, the delivery part of it is very important to move it forward, I think. So and then also to be quite solution focused.
You can be solution
Because that's
focused.
how that's where you get them in. You can't just sort of say, oh, let's all talk about Captain Obvious here. I don't think that's going to work for people. You know, I think, you know, you need to bring in a lot more than that into it to get people's minds opening, because that's what you have to do. You're kind of trying to open their minds to look at solutions, because
Mhm.
everybody's entrenched. It's me at the beginning, and there's a lot of anger. So that's what you're dealing with. Um, Perhaps her process is more suitable maybe towards project management, whereas ours is okay. We're kind of, in a way, we're managing a process, but we're not it's not the same as project management. And so I think the mediation is quite different to hers, although a lot of the things she does can work to an extent in mediation. That's my view on her anyway. But yeah, getting getting people to open is important. You know, so we all have that aim in the mediation.
Okay, so if I maybe go back to Anna,
Yeah.
because one of the things before she got to delivery, you could put those letters in anyway, and you end up with disc or SIDS or whatever.
Oh, I hadn't thought of it like that. Yes, yes.
But the thing about intent is that once you have people in that joint session, if you have not managed the process, going back to Avril, the intent is generally to hurt, or it's revenge, or it's taking a particular side. So come in, and Anna, maybe if you want to talk about that, how do you manage the process as a mediator to make sure that when they're coming in, the parties are at least maybe thinking about the future or the solution? Anna.
Yeah, I think the timing in mediation is really, really important, you know, and I think it's important, especially when you're having your pre-mediation and you're one-to-one with your clients. It's important that they know really what to expect, you know, and you know, when I look at what Betsy is saying, she's talking about an intervention at a meeting. So that's a kind of it's a specific frame. Everybody's there. There's a beginning, middle, and an end, and that's it. There's the before and the after. But in mediation, it's really very, very different, because you have your pre-mediation with the people. You're getting a sense of them. They're getting a sense of you. And you're also running through the process with them so that they have an idea of what to expect, you know, and they know then that in the beginning, then they're going to each be able to speak, and then they're going to listen to the other person speak, and then there's going to be, you know, a certain interaction, and they know where the tough parts of it really are going to be. But you know, you will have explained the process to them, and they know how important it is to trust the process. So there's the early stage of trusting the process, where there's a kind of a sensing going on, getting a sense of what the issues are. Then there's this next stage of the process, which is really the opening up of the issues, and then the sharing of views on either side. So you kind of have that elaboration and that kind of broadening of the vision. And then there's the bit in the middle where sometimes you're hoping for maybe for a good row. You know, sometimes I find it's useful to actually say to people, okay, let's speak openly about this, and let them have their disagreement, because that will really then give them the opportunity, give them the permission, give them the spontaneity that you need, and that they need to be able to perhaps trigger things that are at the back of their mind, but need to come to the front of their mind and need to be articulated. So and they know that when they do that, that's really then what shifts them into the awareness. You know, I didn't know that, or well, I didn't hear that before, or I didn't realize that you were suffering maybe as much as I am, or nobody ever told me that before, or why didn't you say that, or you know, this kind of awareness moment And then you're really moving towards a kind of a resolution. So I think a really good mediation is a bit like a flight. And I'm saying this probably because I used to work in aviation, but there's a lot of similarities between, you know, your preparation on the runway, you're getting ready for takeoff, you're waiting for the permission to actually take to the sky, you're going up to, you know, various different levels of the flight level, and then there's a certain leveling off, but then there's also a kind of a coming down, a safe landing, a disembarking, and moving off. And so I think a good mediation is a bit like a good flight. There may be a few bumps and a bit of turbulence along the way, but when you've prepared your people and they know what to expect and they strap themselves in with their safety belts and, you know, follow the instructions of the cabin crew, you know, it's very different than I think what Betsy is doing with her meetings. But sorry, I'm going on too much.
Yeah.
Stop me,
Not at
Scott.
all. I don't know, I've never had a round of applause at the end of a meeting, but like I've seen on some flights that have been bumpy, but maybe something close to that. I'll bring in Avril just in a second. You mentioned, Anna, the annual review or the annual conference last year. I did a session last year about pre-hearings and questions that people can use to manage the process or get people into that confident mindset, understand the process. And are there any gems that you come up with in that pre-mediation to it's a bit like the captain coming on your flight, if you like, and saying this is what's going to happen, you know, trust me, your engines make different noises, that type of stuff, you know. So are there questions that you particularly find helpful?
I have a gem. I have a gem. I don't usually share it, but seeing as it's you, Scott, and seeing as you're wearing your happy smiling t-shirt today, you know, you see there, I will share it. And my gem is this. My gem, I call it sonar, and it's SONAR. And I explained to the parties in my one-to-one mediation, pre-mediation with them beforehand, explained to them that I'm going to go through the sonar process, because I work very much on the kind of the energy and the vibration that I'm picking up from the people. And sonar is something that you use when you're actually going to look for something that's lost. Very often in aviation, if you have an aircraft that's lost and you're like that Airbus 350 that went missing, you go with your sonar and you're going to actually find something that's hidden, that can't be found. So my sonar very quickly is the S. S is sensing that there's a problem or an opportunity for growth or something that's really within you, outside you, or between you, or even beyond you, that's seeking your attention. So that's the sensing. The O is openness, that people are open to exploring either the depths of the problem or the heights of the opportunity that they have in mediation. So the O is really important. The N, and this is the magic part, this is where the bridge is. The N is things that not to do, because if you're not judging the situation, you're not attached to any one outcome, you're not blaming yourself, you're not blaming the other person, but you're just noticing what happens when you let go of all of those things. And then you move into the A, and the A is awareness. And that's where you get heightened awareness of the issues, awareness of the options, awareness of the need for alignment, and awareness of the options that you have really in the future. And the A is like a ladder. All the different bars of the A are like, the A can grow and grow and grow in awareness, and then you're moving towards the R. And the R is the resolution that you're seeking, but it's also an opportunity for perhaps reconciliation. It's also an opportunity for reflection. And it's also, and this is the magic of it, it's that you each, if you get to the R, you release each other from the conflict. And that release gives you permission then to come out the other end. And hopefully, because for me, mediation is a very creative process. So explain to people, this is a creative process. This is what I'm going to take you through. And yes, we will get stuck. Yes, we will get lost. But we come back then to our SONAR acronym. And I won't say it works every time. Sometimes we might end up going in loops. But I found it works well. So there, It's only because you're wearing your fancy T-shirt today that I've
Fancy
shared that
t-shirt,
with
fancy
you.
French
That was
t-shirt.
supposed to be a secret.
That got me all through. Well, yeah. Well, so this is a secret too for anyone that can't speak French. The and
So that's sonar. You heard it here, folks.
you got it here.
That's my sonar
It's,
motto.
it's very good. I'm gonna ask you to share it with others. The Avril, coming back there, there was a bit at the end where Betsy Kauffman says it almost always works, and it filled me with dread, thinking, what about the times it doesn't work? But the bottom line is mediation is a bit like that. It almost always works, but this
Yes.
time it doesn't. So any comments on that kind of thing about the process or anything that Anna's just said about her sonar?
Well, you know, when you're bringing people to into the mediation process, you know, you're not always say like this is a process, but what is fantastic about it is it nearly always works. So we actually do use words like that as part of trying to explain that it's a process and we go through different stages and what we try to do at each different stage. So I think, you know, I don't have difficulty with that phrase. It almost always works.
I was worried about the context of it being a management meeting, and she goes in with this prepared solution for them.
Oh,
Saying,
yes.
here we go, we're going to bring in an external
Yes.
contractor and it's going to work and it's going to be fantastic. And others are going, what? You don't have money for tea in the canteen, but you can bring an external contractor.
Yeah.
You know? So I was thinking more in that context. But yes, within the mediation process, I would do similar stuff. It nearly always, and if it doesn't, you're left better informed. You know, in Anna's case, people wouldn't understand sonar and the stuff. And I notice, Anna, as well, that you're using terms which are going back to aviation about the depths and the heights and all that kind of stuff as well. Is that something that
Yeah, I am, and I'll tell you why. Because when I invented this sonar acronym, I was actually working in an organization and going through a huge amount of change. And change can be really kind of very disruptive as well, because a lot of people then feel they feel under threat, you know, and they feel maybe that they're afraid to speak up, and they don't want to put on the Captain Obvious cloak, you know. So everybody is a little bit worried when you're going through that kind of reorganization or mergers or whatever. People are a little bit maybe kind of going with the herd a little bit and really not wanting to say what they think, because they're waiting to see how things evolve before then they perhaps show their colors. And I think that's where an enlightened organization can actually use mediation as part of the creative process, to be able perhaps to make a mediator then available to teams before they go into big negotiations. Or I found in my organization that it was actually very useful as well for people in industrial relations, where they wanted to tease out, first of all, what were the main underlying issues that needed to be addressed before you'd go into a big industrial relations situation, perhaps between management and the unions. And this, using an acronym, using mediation and using an acronym like SONAR can actually enable people to bring a kind of an impartiality to the process as well, because they want to be able to discover what are the underlying issues, what are the things that nobody is saying, what are the things that everybody's thinking about but are not being articulated, are not in the narrative, are not in the in the narrative that's accompanying the company evolution at the moment. And if you want to go on an exploration to be able to get these issues out, that for me is when mediation really comes into its own, because it's used as part of a creative exploratory process, not necessarily to resolve a conflict at the moment that exists, but potentially to be able to have a broader perspective on conflicts that may still be emerging. And so for me, we have yet as a profession, I think, to absolutely explore the full potential of using mediation as a creative force, especially in organizational settings, but not only organizational. Before working in aviation, I worked in government. I worked in Ireland in the civil service. I was there for many years. But it's also a way for if you want to produce a strategy paper on something, or a strategy paper with political intent for governments to be able to consider, like a white paper on legislation or whatever. You know, mediation is a brilliant way of actually bringing in a mediator, putting them with the key people, and then enabling you to produce an accompanying narrative that can identify things that are emerging or things that are potentially conflictual down the line. So I think we're really only scratching the surface on the potential for mediation in all kinds of fields. So
Okay,
I think we're only at the beginning.
thank you very much there. And I see you've got a lovely message from Angie. Love the sonar. I've only passed my mediation exams recently. These mini sessions are valuable for me. Good, they're valuable for us too. Looking forward to my mediation journey. Any tips and help, welcome. Avril, coming back to you. I mean, the process and the link between mediation and solving management issues comes through. You can almost argue it's deflection, but it's not really. What we're explaining to people is that we're taking a tense situation, a difficult situation, a frightening situation for many, and we're saying, look, we can break this down. We can chunk it down, which you would do in coaching. We can break it down, and we can turn it into a problem that can be objectively viewed, or as objectively as you can, notwithstanding people have the position. So, anything to say about that? About trying to the points that Betsy Kauffman was making about trying to get them solution focused, but in mediation we're saying you come up with the solutions. We're just giving you the framework in which you can provide them.
Yeah.
Any comments there, Avril?
I think you know, it's interesting because I think if you actually give people the power to make the solution, so to say, and you actually give them the power, I think that really drives people forward. I think being so directional takes power away from people. And I think that's where the mediation process wins out. And I agree with Anna in that she's saying, yes, you should use it as as a layer in an organization to try and establish the underlying interest, because you won't at a meeting about managing a particular project, you won't get it there. You have to go through the layering side of it. And I think it's absolutely critical. And I think that's where we as mediators, yes, we can gain a lot of information and give people the confidence to speak up. Because if that exploration is done, they have the confidence, they know the issues, you know, and that brings much more to an organization, I think.
Yeah, I think it was one of the things that came through Betsy. She provided a solution. Obviously, it was short video. Whereas what we need to do is get the parties to do it. But your point about the underlying interests that are in there is that if you're asking simple questions and not getting down to what they're really concerned about, you're answering the wrong questions, or they're answering the wrong questions and providing the wrong solutions to the wrong issues that they have, and believe they're unresolved, and they're going to end up, in Anna's case, with a further collective dispute the following year because they haven't resolved their underlying problem.
Can I come in just there on something interesting that Avril was saying, Scott? And really, it's about the role of the organization. And Avril is quite right. You know, that there is scope within organizations for using different kind of approaches to be able to empower people and to empower the workforce. And just to give an example of that, actually, is I work on the United Nations Global Mediation Panel, and about 2 years ago, the 5 UN organizations, they came together and they actually said, we are signing a pledge to tell all our staff working in the UN that whenever there's a conflict or whenever there's a dispute, we want you to try mediation first. So this was really powerful, but because you're actually telling everybody who works for the UN, whenever there's a conflict, you know, this won't affect your rights. It doesn't affect the rules, doesn't affect the regulations, doesn't affect all the normal channels that are there. But we encourage you to try mediation first. You know, solve the problem yourself. We trust you. These are you know, very skilled people, but we trust you to be able to solve the problem yourself. And that's, I think a lot of organizations could put that trust really in their people and provide that kind of a mediation service for them. So what happens in the UN if somebody, if people are in dispute and they want to have, they want to try mediation first, the Ombudsman's office there will actually assign a mediator, and then the mediator will get in contact with the people. The mediation is organized offline. Hopefully then you have an outcome, you have a satisfactory result. And it's really, I think, very much appreciated by staff because they can address their issues, go away quietly with a mediator, resolve the issue, and then it's saving time for the people, it's saving time and energy, and within the organization, it means that conflict is almost encouraged. They're encouraged to address and to resolve it and to be empowered themselves to do it. For the effective use of for the effective running of the organization, but also for the effective performance and professional lives of the people. And I think that's a good example of really something that organizations could do more by making access to mediation panels or mediators, external or internal mediators available at an organizational level. That's just one example of how it works.
It's a very good example. What you see is being mirrored by Joe there on the chat. I always feel the workplace mediation is placed as a last resort instead of a first point in a resolution process. You should have gone to Legal Island, because when I was there, I wrote the resolution procedure, which did exactly that, because you're required to have some kind of dispute resolution procedure. But we kind of inverted it and put mediation as the first option. And the grievance procedure was put as an appendix. It was still there. But we said, no, let's put the emphasis on your adults should resolve, because one of the issues, I'll bring in Avril here, one of the problems with having formal disciplinary or grievance procedures or, bullying at work type stuff and going straight into the formal stuff is people get stuck. And they go into their camps and they want to win. And we as mediators tend to get brought in at the end of that process instead of at the beginning, when you can nip things in the bud and help the parties get to what was annoying them. Instead of months after there's been a big investigation, you get brought in. It makes it much more difficult, doesn't it?
It makes it almost impossible once you've gone through the investigation process. The people are so apart at that stage. I think bringing in mediation at the end it is impossible, because they're gone way past that. And I agree with Anna there. If it's brought in at the beginning, people can address, and I think it's so much more open what people can say in the mediation process. Disciplinary processes, people cannot say anything. Like, they're literally shut down.
Yeah, because it's going to be used against you.
Exactly, exactly. And all they're doing is gathering evidence against me or whatever, and you can imagine how you feel in that situation.
You bring in all the biases, because you're confirming. You've got the confirmation bias coming through, because this is going to support my case. You can see that happening in America over the election stuff and whatever as well. They're all taking it from their sides and ignoring any kind of nuance that they could be getting in mediation. I'm looking at my screen and I see Jack. Jack, you've got a very pensive look on. Do you want to come in here? If you do, you're going to have to unmute yourself if you want to come in, or anyone else can come in as well. But are you okay? No. Okay, you say no. I can see. That's what happens when you leave your screen on. You see, I can see you. But if there's any other similar to the US, that's what Jane's saying there as well. So we've been through a number of processes that she's got with her CIDS and the solution. Sticking with the solution part, she provided it, okay? In this particular example, okay, it was a video. It was to do with helping a management system or whatever. Or we've mentioned it might be useful when you're looking at some kind of project management. But within mediation, what are the kind of things that you might use when we've been through maybe the joint session to get them to be solution focused? What kind of things might you use? Maybe stick with Avril first and then bringing in Anna.
Well, I'm always trying to get, like, I'm very conscious that they come up with this solution. It's always about, what do you think is going to work? So it's all about, can we think of any ways we can make this work? is there any ways we can deal with this problem? Because there's always, you know, the final issues, the house or whatever in a marital situation. What ways can we look at this? What are there? Like, are there 5 ways of dealing this? Are there 10 ways? So it's kind of putting it out to them to come up with, and they kind of think 10 ways. And then suddenly they start thinking, well, there are other ways. So, you know, in mediation, we can't just offer one solution, because our one solution mightn't necessarily work at all, you know. So I think it's pushing the parties to come up with, and kind of giving numbers. Come on, there must be more. There must be more. To push them to get them to think outside the box and to look at different ways of seeing things. Will that work? Tell me how that'll work. Because I think when you do it like that, people come up with, it might be a similar solution, but it's got all different nuances that are really, really, really important to them. That you would, you know, if you had to, you wouldn't even have thought about it. You know,
And
so
I suppose from a what would be the word? A personal and protective point of view, if you provide the solution, you're leaving yourself open to claim anyway.
oh,
You don't want to do
absolutely.
that.
Oh,
If it goes
absolutely.
wrong, you get the blame.
So that's why you can't. So I know that. Yeah, 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 yeah. But like people do come up with very creative ways, and you kind of see, oh yes, so I can see why you know, why they want that particular nuance in it. So that's why I wouldn't. That's why I would even think of suggesting a solution.
Jack, I see you've taken your
Yeah.
off. Are you looking to come in here?
Yeah, one of the things that primarily I used to have to deal with in the workplace was to get people to concentrate on the outcome, not the process.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and you have to actually try and steer them away from what's going on to concentrate on what do we want out of this. You know, and sometimes you're stuck in trying to get people to understand that it's about outcome. And a lot of people, and I've found in the management side especially, they get caught up in what the process says you should be doing. And it's like trying to prise the fingers open of holding on to something and saying, can you let go, please? Can you just try and concentrate on what it is we're trying to get as a solution? Not who's right about the process. That's a defense mechanism as well for a lot of people too. That if you hold on to a process long enough, everybody else will give up and accept that the process hasn't been followed properly. And it's usually, oh, well, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. And you get, you know, the snout goes down and you just keep digging and digging and digging.
Yeah, yeah. And how do you shift that? How do you help people focus on so it doesn't happen again? Or how do you break that kind of cycle of, no, we're not moving until you move?
I remember one time being involved in a dispute that went on for 12 weeks. It became a major industrial dispute. And the person who was accused of being in the wrong said it wasn't me. And the person who actually carried out the action said it was me. But because the manager had said, no, it's him, it took us 12 weeks to get people to accept it wasn't him. It was the person that owned up. Somebody had thrown an orange peel at somebody, and the manager said it's you. And we finished up after 12 weeks. The people were so stuck in the process. You have to protect the manager because he said it was this person rather than that person.
Yes, yes.
You know, and getting them to let go was a major problem. And then, of course, it was during times of great strife here, where all the other external organizations were becoming involved in it as well. So somebody said that if this is not resolved, we're going to deal with the manager. And then somebody else says, we didn't say that. So whoever said that, we want to deal with them. So the circle got bigger and bigger and bigger, moved away completely from the workplace. So we had a community dispute and a workplace dispute as well at the same time. And trying to put that fire out was really an exercise that I wouldn't want to be going through again.
It would be over an orange, Jack. Right. Right.
It started literally. It started over an orange peel being thrown at somebody, and it grew. It grew legs. You know.
An orange peel with legs. Anna, any comments on? We've moved on to a more a collective dispute than an individual one, but the situations are very similar, I suppose. Any comments?
Yeah, you were at the beginning there. You were talking about moving towards solutions, but I find with my sonar model, when you get into A, you're getting into awareness, and it's awareness of the issues and awareness of the options. So I don't move towards really solution. When I get them to the A, I'm saying, well, we have a pretty good awareness now of what the issues are, because you've gone through the sensing, the opening, not judging, not blaming, not attached, and so on. But you've got an awareness of the issues and an awareness of the options. And I love that bit. I love when you get to the A, because when you write down the options, you'll kind of discover maybe that you might have 3 or 4, you might even have 5 options, And because if you've been holding a kind of a safe, kind of a creative space for those people, and you're waiting for them to come into it, you're holding it within you, first of all, but as the mediation goes on, you're expanding that space, and you're making more and more room for them to come into that creative space where they feel kind of secure, so they can come up with these options. And I love the moment when you're actually looking at the 5 or 6 options and you're saying, I wonder, would that be the makings of a kind of an action plan of those 5 or 6 options there? If they were to be maybe actions that we could take, which would be the first one? And that's a great moment then, because then they're talking together about the fact that this maybe would be number 1, and this maybe might be number 3, and that might be number 2. And then they're saying, now hold on a second, if we take number 5 and actually make that number 1, that'll give us other options. And then the magic is actually playing out. And then they're starting to release each other from the conflict, and they're getting into really creative mode with their options. So suddenly, not only do you have, you've gone beyond a solution, you've come up with the options, and you have the action plan, and the energy has changed completely, and they can go out of the room very often kind of, I won't say with their arms around each other, but not, not against each other. One of the greatest mediations that I really enjoyed was at the end of it. These were people who didn't speak to each other, and everybody in the organization knew they didn't speak to each other. And at the end of it, they said, "Why don't we go to lunch together?" And they went off to the canteen, and they went in, and they sat down, and they had lunch together. And I think everybody in the place was looking to say, "Oh my God, it's over." And they were talking, and they sat down and had lunch together. So that's the kind of solution you want. You want them to go off and buy the T-shirt together that says "Smile."
Yeah. Up here they tend to leave sharing an umbrella rather than going out arm in arm. But overall, it's all very well looking at solutions, and some of those are very transactional as opposed to transformational. Most of the mediations I've done over the last year, there hasn't even been an agreement. They're happy. They've gone now that they've reached that understanding. They've reached your A, and they've said, "Look, we're happy here. We're moving on." But Avril, do you reality test those things? Do you bring people in, and how do you do that then?
Well, I think, if they've gone through the stage where they kind of think, well, these are probably the 3 best options. And sometimes it's a bit of this and it's a bit of that. And the other person, no, I want number 2 and number 4. So there's always going to be that. Well, then I literally said, well, let's work it through. How is it going to work? And literally bring them through, okay, so what are we going to do in 3 months' time? Okay, so what's next? Tell me the next bit. I let them go through the stages and let them go through the process, because it's only when they actually do and see what's involved in each stage that they can come to a solution that's going to work for them.
Yeah.
They see different things to what we would see.
And what about future focus then? Do you ask those questions? How do you stop coming back here? How are you going to avoid it? Most people I've met have never been through mediation apart from the time they were me, right? They don't have a history of going through mediation every time they have a dispute, right? Because it's not built into procedures, as we just discussed.
Yeah.
And if it is built into procedures, then they have an open organisation where they never need it.
Probably wouldn't need it, yeah.
They'll sort those things out. You shouldn't be going to mediation unless you need it, right? So, but what about the future focus? What kind of questions might be asked there about stopping this happening again, and building the I suppose the connections?
I think they almost come as a result of finding the solutions and them working together and stress testing each thing to see what's possible. I think it always comes as part of that process, almost automatically, because they now have a game plan. They now know what they're going to do in the future. So that's kind of, they have this working model.
Okay,
So I don't think you have to put in a specific, you might have in the mediated agreement, if they do, they try and do this and how they will sort disputes in the future. But they probably actually don't need it at that stage. And you just put in the clauses to kind of, I suppose, batten the hatches down in case things start falling apart, a year down the road. But I think it's just amazing how all of that falls away. That's what happens. Well, that's what I see happening now. Yeah.
Okay, grand stuff. So we're talking about the end, Anna. We're nearly at the end. Any final comments from you, Anna, before we?
Yeah, just final comment is I say to people, because I think a mediation should be an empowering situation. So I say to them, look, you know how to do this now. And the chances are it probably is going to happen again. And you are going to have exactly as Alfred says, you're going to have a situation that you're going to have to maybe do this for yourself and maybe do it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But you've shown them how it can be done. You've taken them through the process. And I would love, if people can actually do this for themselves, and I can see that could be a role of mediators very much in the future in empowering people to be able to do this for themselves and have that kind of a skill set. Imagine how wonderful the world would be if people could actually really could do this for themselves, and a skill then that that could be passed on really through the generations in the future. So when you look at a human being in the future, you might think, well, gosh, we have a highly developed mediation skills as part of our humanity. I mean, come on, the world needs it. Let's aim high. Let's aim for the sky. And like somebody said there, the magic of mediation. Let's share it and let's all have a little bit of sprinkle the magic dust on it.
Sprinkle the magic dust. Well, thank you, Avril and Anna, and indeed Jack there for sprinkling the magic dust of mediation today. That's our last TED Talk that we're going to be doing until September, and I hope that Alison's going to show a slide to tell us when the next one is, because I've forgotten the date. I think it's 16th or 17th of September. Just see if I can find that up before the thing pops up. No, I can't find it. Can't find out where it is, but we're back in September, and I'll pick another video for us to watch as well. Look, thanks to you, thanks to Alison, thanks to Bob and everyone else who's been on those TED Talks since January. We hope you enjoy them. We will be having a TED Talk Live equivalent at the annual conference on the 18th, 19th October up in Belfast, where our guest speaker will be given a live presentation, and then it will be analysed by the panel. And we're going to get the speaker to join the panel as well, just to make sure that it's particularly relevant. But if you want to see TED Talk Live, come along to the conference on the 18th, 19th October in the Hilton in Belfast. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next time in September, folks.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Next
Have a
time.
great summer. Bye.
Yeah, have a great summer, everybody. Yeah.
You guys.
Keep smiling.